Okay, now we're back and we're going to pick up right where we left off. You notice I have my same project open. I called it Intro to Programming, Part 1. And now what I want to do is show you how to add some functionality to our program. Keep in mind that the whole purpose of building computer programs is to have your computer do something that you want it to. Maybe it's a little game, maybe it's a business solution, maybe it's just something for fun. But the whole point is to create instructions so that the CPU, the central processing unit in your computer, will actually be able to carry out those instructions and do something fun or do something helpful to us. Otherwise, what's the point of having these computers? So all of the software, all of the programs that are on your computer are designed to do just that. And what we're doing in this class is to teach you how to build custom applications. You can build whatever you want. And in order to do that, though, we take our form. Remember, I called this a Windows form or a Win form. We take our form and we got to put some things on there so it'll do something. And the easiest way to do that in Visual Studio is to use something from the toolbox. Now let me show you how to do the toolbox. Over here on this toolbar, there's a little thing that looks like a hammer and a wrench. And if you click on that, it brings up this box over here, and you'll see there's this huge list of things that you can add to your form. These are all the built-in controls that come with Windows and Visual Studio. Most of these you've seen before in regular Windows applications, but I'm going to just show you a few of them today. You could also, if I close this, you can also get to this through the View menu and come down here to Toolbox as well. Okay? Now let me show you a couple tricks. You'll notice that when I open up my toolbox, my form moved over here, and I can actually see the toolbox. I can see Solution Explorer. What I typically do is to close Solution Explorer so that I have a lot of room to work. The other thing that I want to tell you is the way I have my computer set up here is that the form is actually stuck right there. If I try to drag it around, it doesn't move anywhere. There are ways to make it undocked, but right now it's docked. Now docking just means that it's attached to one part of my screen up in the top left corners where mine is docked, and I just prefer to work that way. But one of the things that you'll notice is that the toolbox is over here, and sometimes you want to get the toolbox out of the way, but you also like having it available real fast. Look at the thing that you can do. You see this up here? They have a little pin, and if I click on that, what happens is it automatically hides my toolbox, and you notice it made a little tab over here. Watch what happens when I put the mouse on it. If I just put the mouse over here, I don't click, I just put the mouse over there. It brings back my toolbox, and now I can pick controls. The problem is, look what it did. It covered up my form, didn't it? And that to me is kind of a pain because now I can't see the form, or I can't put the button where I want or whatever. So what I do, you guys, is I pin my toolbox. So I click on it like that so it's not auto hidden. And then what I do is I just either adjust it here, and then of course when I'm finished with it, what I do is I like to just close it out. Okay? You can also move the toolbox. You can make it floating. You can make it a tab out of it, and so if I do this, now I can go between my designer or my tab, and you can see it's there. I'm not used to doing that at all, so I'm going to change that back. I just prefer to have it either open or closed. That's the way I like to work, but you can do it however you want. So let me open it again and let me show you what to do. What I'd like you to do first is to go over here where it says Button. And by the way, if your toolbox is closed, looks like this, just open it up either with the common controls or with all the window controls. The common controls is probably easier to start with because there's not so many of them. They've categorized these in 05, and you can customize it however you would like, but I'd like you to grab a button. Now what you can do, you can either double click it and it puts a button over here. See that? Now I'm going to hit the delete key while I've selected the button. I'm going to get rid of the button. You can also do this. You can hold down the left mouse button and drag your button over. Now these buttons, of course, are the exact same buttons that all Windows applications use. And what you're doing at this point is just simply designing the form that you want. So let's just have a little fun with this. Let's put a button here, and let's put another button underneath it. And I want to show you something that's new on 05. You see these blue lines that show up? These are new construction lines. We never had them before, but they're really kind of cool because they really help you line things up. And then I don't know if you can see this or not. Watch. I'm going to sneak up here. You see that little blue line in between the two buttons? Right under the O? That shows you that the buttons are spaced exactly how Microsoft wants them if you were to build an official application. Okay? So I could put one down here, but if I want to make it right the same, I just move it up a little bit, and you'll notice that it makes them the same. I want to show you another cool feature, though. Check this out. Let's say I have two buttons like this one, and then I put this one here, and I decide I'd like to make them all about the same distance apart vertically. Look at this new tool. If I was to click on this one and I come up to the Format menu, I can say vertical spacing. I could say make equal. I could say align. I could do all those kind of things. Okay. Here's what I want to do. I want to click this button. I'm going to click that one once. I'm going to hold down the Control key. Click that one. Still holding down the Control key, and click that one. All right. Now they're all selected. Go to the Format menu and go where it says vertical spacing, and say make equal. Now it does that. Let's say I wanted to make it a little less. Well, I could say let's decrease it a little bit. Maybe we decrease it a little more. Okay? So you can mess with these, and the computer will align up your controls for you, so you don't have to spend hours and hours messing with them. All right? So I just wanted to show you real quickly some of those editing tools. There's some really cool ones on there that we'll use as we build more stuff. Let's go down back to our toolbox now and add a text box. I'm just going to left click on the text box and drag it up here. And you'll notice, see the construction lines? It allows me to very quickly line up the bottom of my text box with the bottom of my button. Now let me show you another cool thing. If I go up just a tad, you notice it has a purple line? What that's going to do is line up the text that's going to be typed in my text box with the bottom of the text in the button. Okay? So if you want them to be just exactly the same, you can use a purple line. If you don't care about that, you just line up the controls with the blue. I tend to use that because it looks pretty clean. I'm going to go ahead and put on another text box. Just like that. And at this point, I'd like to put on a couple of radio buttons. You've seen these. Sometimes they used to be called option buttons, you guys, and I still have a tendency to call them option buttons. But the new term is radio button. And then let's put on a checkbox or two. Let's put those over here. So I want to just show you how they work, just so you get a feel for it. Okay? So now we have a text box, another text box, series of radio buttons, 3 buttons in these. Okay? Now text boxes are used for letting people type things in, such as their name, address, phone number, that kind of thing. What you need to remember is you cannot type anything directly on this form. I can't just start typing something. I can't, for example, come up here and type first name and then come down here and do last name. If you want to do that, what we use is a label. So let me show you a label. Here's a label. Comes right up here. And when you put one on here, the first thing it says, well, this is label number 1. And if I grab another one, this is going to be label number 2. And I'll show you how to change what that says and how to change its colors and properties. I mean, you could go nuts changing things and making it look really cool. But I'm just going to try to show you how they function at this point. Now here's something I want you to think about, and maybe you need to write this down. What we're doing right now is working in what's called design mode. Our program is not running. The computer's not worried about it. The computer's not responding. If I click on these buttons, it doesn't do anything. And what I'm going to do is suggest that you do this. After you've added some things to your form, go up here and click on these floppy disks where it says Save All and save your work. Please remember to save your work in case the computer messes up. Now, you're thinking, okay, now I want to see what happens. How can I make the buttons do something? Because right now they don't seem to do anything. All right. Once you've designed your stuff, you want to test it. You want to see how it works. What we do is we run our program. Now there's a couple ways to do that. What I typically do is I push F5 on the keyboard. That's the easiest way, and that's what I'm going to teach you to do. But you can also go up here and click on this little green button. This is just like on a DVD player or an old VCR player where you actually play, and now your program is running. This is a fully functional Windows program. Admittedly, it doesn't do too much, but it's running in memory. The processor is keeping track of it, and it's running just like Microsoft Word or Excel or anything else. Okay? Now you can see behind here we have our design surface. What you have to remember is when your program's running, you can't go back and change this. So if I want to work on it some more, I've got to stop this. I can either click on this or I can go up here to this stop button. You see this here? And I can stop it. Now I'm back in design mode and I can make changes to it. So if I want to add a, well, what could we add here? If I wanted to add a calendar control or something, I could put that in there. And I decide, well, I need a little more room now for my calendar. I'll put the calendar over here. Okay. Now you notice how much stuff is on here that Microsoft has made for us. We haven't had to build anything yet. We just drag a bunch of stuff on the form, and it does stuff. Now let me show you how it works. I'm going to push F5 to run the program. Remember, if you want to test it, you've got to run it. Push F5 for a second, and it comes up here, and now it's ready to run. And of course, you can move it around or whatever you want. But check this out. When I click on the buttons, look, they appear to go up and down, don't they? The check boxes work. The radio buttons know that only one can be selected at a time, so they work. I can come up here to this text box. I can type things. You notice my label is describing what's there, so eventually we'll change that so it says something nice. And even my calendar control works. Notice I have all this stuff that's available to me, and I haven't had to program it. I haven't had to do anything. They have all these built-in controls and built-in components that you can use, and that's what helps make you build applications very quickly in Visual Studio. Now, let me tell you, we're using Visual Basic, but you could do this same exact thing if you wanted to do it in C# or C++ or J#. Those are the 4 languages that come with Visual Studio 5. So the designing part is all identical. So if someone says to you, well, I don't want to learn Visual Basic, I want to learn C#, or after you learn VB, you decide to learn C#, all this is exactly the same. You don't have to relearn this at all. Very cool stuff. Okay? Just remember what we're in now is called run mode, and that's where I can actually make my program do something. Now what we have to learn next is how to change some of these things, because I think you'll agree, if we have a program that says button 1, button 2, button 3, and we give that to our friends, they're not going to have a clue about what we're wanting them to do or what they can do with our little program. So we need to learn how to change some of these things, and that's what we're going to do next in the next lesson. Okay? So tune in for part 3. Thank you.